Here is something nobody tells you when you are growing up sensitive. They do not pull you aside and say, "Hey, what you're carrying right now is actually going to become your greatest strength." Nobody says that. What they say instead is, "Toughen up. Stop being so emotional. You are too sensitive for your own good." And after hearing that enough times, you start to believe it. But here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. The story most people tell about sensitive people is wrong. It is incomplete. And it has caused a lot of good people to spend years apologizing for the very thing that was quietly making them extraordinary. So today we are going to talk about what actually happens to empaths over time. Not the romanticized version. Not the version where you just feel things deeply and the universe rewards you for it. The real version, the one that involves pain and hard-won wisdom and a kind of power most people never develop, because they were never forced to go deep enough to find it. Let us start at the beginning. Most empaths do not grow up feeling like they have a gift. They grow up feeling like something is wrong with them. They cry at commercials. They absorb the tension in a room the moment they walk in. They feel other people's moods like weather, like something pressing against their skin. A bad day for someone they love becomes a bad day for them, too, even if nobody said a word. And the world does not know what to do with that. Parents get frustrated. Siblings roll their eyes. Teachers suggest they are too emotional to think clearly. And slowly, quietly, the message gets delivered. Feeling this much is a problem. Sensitivity is a liability. So many young empaths learn to manage it. They learn to hide what they feel. They get very good at performing okayness. They shrink. They edit themselves down to a version that is easier for other people to be around. And they carry that invisible weight everywhere they go. But here is what was actually happening underneath all of that. While everyone else was moving through life on the surface, the empath was developing a completely different kind of intelligence. They were learning to read people, not casually, not occasionally, constantly. They were scanning facial expressions, tracking shifts in tone, noticing the gap between what someone said and what their body language communicated. They were picking up on things other people missed entirely. And you have to understand, this was not optional for them. For a lot of empaths, especially those who grew up in unpredictable or emotionally chaotic households, reading the room was a survival skill. You had to know what kind of mood someone was in before they walked through the door. You had to sense when the temperature was shifting before anything happened, because catching it early meant you had time to adjust. That is a remarkable thing for a child to develop, and it does not go away. It grows. There is a concept in modern psychology called post-traumatic growth. The idea that some people, after going through hard things, do not just recover. They actually come out the other side with capabilities they did not have before. This is not automatic. Suffering alone does not create wisdom. Plenty of people go through hard things and come out bitter, closed off, or stuck. But for empaths who do the inner work, something different tends to happen. The pain asks questions, big ones. Why do people deceive each other? Why does someone who claims to love you still hurt you? What is the difference between someone who is genuinely kind and someone who just performs kindness? What actually matters in a life? What is real and what is just reputation? And the empath does not ask these questions once and move on. They live inside them. They wrestle with them for years. They search for answers not in textbooks, but in lived experience, in relationships, in patterns that repeat themselves until finally something becomes clear. That process of searching changes a person at a fundamental level. It builds a kind of wisdom that cannot be taught in a classroom and cannot be shortcut. It is earned, and things that are earned tend to last. Think about what happens to someone who has been through real betrayal, not a minor disappointment, real betrayal. The kind where someone you trusted completely turned out to be something entirely different than you thought. The kind where the version of events you believed in collapsed. For a while, that is just devastating. There is no sugarcoating it. But something interesting happens afterward for the people who process it rather than bury it. They start to see differently. They start noticing things about how people present themselves versus who they actually are. They start catching the small inconsistencies, the moments where someone's words do not quite match their behavior, the patterns that reveal character over time versus what charm reveals in a first impression. They become harder to fool, not because they became suspicious of everyone. That is not the same thing at all. Suspicion is fear-based. What develops in a mature empath is more like accuracy, the ability to see what is actually. They explain themselves to people who were never interested in understanding them. They forgive quickly without any real accountability on the other side. They sacrifice their own peace again and again in the name of keeping everyone else comfortable, and they call it compassion. But I want to offer a different word for it. It is a pattern, and it is a pattern that comes from a deep, early belief that your own needs are less important than keeping the peace, that making yourself smaller will somehow make things safer, that being easy to be around will make you lovable. That belief does not hold up. What it actually does is teach the people around you that access to you requires no accountability, that you will always come back regardless of what happened, that no matter what they do, you will find a way to understand it, excuse it, or absorb it. And some people, consciously or not, will take full advantage of that. This is where the real turning point comes. And for most empaths, it does not come gently. It comes through exhaustion, through one too many violations of trust, through realizing at 3 in the morning that you have been pouring yourself into people and situations that were never going to pour back. And in that moment of clarity, something shifts. They realize that compassion without discernment is not a virtue. It is a vulnerability. That distinction changes everything, because now the empath is not just kind. They are strategically kind, selectively available, intentional about where their energy goes and why. They start asking new questions. Does this relationship actually nourish me, or does it just need me? Does this person respect my limits when I set them, or do they find a way around them? Does my presence here create something genuinely good, or does it just enable something that should have been confronted a long time ago? Those are powerful questions, and when you ask them honestly, you stop living reactively. You start making choices, and choice is where power actually begins. Now, let us talk about boundaries for a second, because the word gets used so much that it has almost lost its meaning. A lot of people hear the word boundaries and they think it means building walls, shutting people out, becoming cold, unreachable, or difficult. That is not what real boundaries are. Real boundaries are a form of self-respect. They are a way of saying, I will engage with you here and not there. I will give this and not that. Not because I do not care about you, but because I know what I can offer honestly and what I cannot. And here is the thing about real boundaries that most people do not expect. They actually make genuine connection possible. Because when you are constantly giving from depletion, constantly saying yes when everything in you is screaming no, the giving is not genuine. It is performance. It is self-preservation disguised as generosity. But when you know what you actually have to give and you offer it freely, from a place of real choice, that is something completely different. That is generosity without hidden resentment. That is presence that is actually present. People who develop true inner strength eventually figure this out. And when they do, they stop apologizing for having limits. They stop over-explaining why they need space. They stop trying to make everyone comfortable with the fact that they are a whole person with needs of their own. And something remarkable happens as a result. The people who were only there for what they could take tend to disappear. And the people who genuinely valued them, who were actually capable of real connection, stay. Let us go a little deeper here, because there is a layer to this that goes beyond relationships. As people mature through experience, many of them develop what Robert Greene would recognize as advanced pattern recognition. They start seeing beneath surface behavior. They start noticing not just what people do, but why. Not just what someone says, but what they are trying to accomplish by saying it. Not just what a situation looks like from the outside, but what is actually driving it. This is not mystical. It is not some special intuition that only certain people are born with. It is the result of paying close attention for a very long time. Think about it. If you spent decades carefully observing how people behave, how they change when they want something, how their language shifts when they are being dishonest, how someone treats others when they think nobody important is watching, you would naturally begin to recognize patterns. Patterns in how insecurity reveals itself. Patterns in how manipulation disguises itself as concern. Patterns in how people behave under pressure versus how they behave when life is easy. And once you have seen those patterns enough times, they become almost immediately recognizable. You can walk into a situation and within minutes have a remarkably accurate read on the hidden dynamics at play. That is not a small thing. In a world where so many people operate on projection and wishful thinking, the person who can accurately read human nature holds a quiet but enormous advantage. Here is something worth sitting with for a moment. A lot of people think power belongs to the loudest person in the room, the most aggressive, the one who dominates the conversation, takes up the most space, and pushes hardest for what they want. And sure, that kind of power exists. It is real. It gets results sometimes. But there is another kind of power, quieter, more durable, and in the long run, far more influential. It is the power of understanding. When you genuinely understand what is driving someone, you cannot be easily manipulated by them. When you see clearly what a situation actually is, you are not fooled by what it appears to be. When you know your own value without needing anyone else to confirm it, you cannot be controlled through approval or the withdrawal of approval. That kind of power does not announce itself. It does not need to. There comes a point for a lot of people where they stop defining themselves by what hurt them. This is harder than it sounds, because when you have been through real pain, especially pain that happened early and repeated itself in different forms, throughout your life, it can begin to feel like part of your identity, like the story you tell about yourself has this wound sitting at its center. This is who I am, because of what happened to me. And there is nothing wrong with acknowledging that your experiences shaped you. They did. That is true for everyone. But there is a difference between recognizing that your past shaped you and allowing your past to author your future. The person who remains trapped is usually the one who is still, consciously or unconsciously, organizing life around the wound, still waiting to be fully understood, still trying to prove something to people who were never capable of seeing it, still measuring personal worth by whether they were valued by people who never truly had that capacity. The person who becomes powerful is the one who eventually decides, I'm not going to let what happened to me become the thing that defines who I am. And once that decision is made, something opens up. The past does not disappear. The experiences do not stop mattering, but they stop becoming the filter through which everything else is viewed. Suddenly there is room for new choices, new relationships built on different foundations, and new ways of showing up that are no longer reactions to old wounds, but expressions of genuine values. That is freedom, and quietly, that is power. So let us bring all of this together, because I think sometimes we hear things like this, we nod along, we find them inspiring for a moment, and then we go right back to whatever we were doing. I do not want that to happen here, because if you recognize yourself in any part of what we have talked about today, this is not just interesting information. It is something you need to take seriously. Here is the thing about highly perceptive people that the world keeps getting wrong. Deep sensitivity is not a personality flaw that needs to be corrected. It is not emotional immaturity that people simply grow out of. It is not a liability that needs to be managed. When it passes through the fire of real experience and emerges with wisdom, discernment and self-respect intact, it becomes one of the rarest strategic advantages a person can possess, because it allows you to understand people without being controlled by them. It allows you to see clearly without becoming cynical. It allows you to read human nature at a level most people never reach. Not so you can rescue everyone, but so you can move through life with an accuracy that very few people ever develop. That is not weakness. That is mastery. And the path to it is not easy. It requires you to go through experiences that break people who never learn to reflect. It requires you to ask questions that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths inside yourself and remain with them long enough to extract real understanding. But if you have spent your life observing, feeling deeply and trying to make sense of people, then you have already been doing that work. The real question is whether you will continue treating it like a burden or finally recognize it as preparation. Because here is the truth Robert Greene points toward throughout his work on power and human behavior. Truly influential people do not become powerful because they stopped feeling. They become powerful because they stopped being ashamed of what they perceived. They do not become influential because they dominate everyone around them. They become influential because people naturally trust those who see clearly, remain emotionally composed, and speak honestly. They do not become strong because they built walls around themselves. They become strong because they stopped tearing themselves down just to keep other people comfortable. And once that happens, everything changes. The relationships in their life become more honest. The choices they make become clearer. The energy they once spent managing other people's reactions becomes available for building meaningful work, creating something valuable, and showing up fully in friendships, relationships, and purpose in a way that was never possible while they were shrinking themselves to fit other people's expectations. They become quietly exactly the kind of person others naturally respect. Not because they perform wisdom, not because they try to become a guide or a therapist, but because they studied human nature deeply enough to become authentic. And authenticity, the kind forged through experience, reflection, and courage, is something people recognize long before they can explain it. So I want to leave you with this. If you are still in the stage where sensitivity feels like a curse, where depth feels like isolation, where feeling everything feels like a burden you never asked to carry, I am not going to tell you that it does not hurt. It does, I know it does. But I want you to understand what is actually happening. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not behind. You are in the part of the story that looks like struggle from the inside but looks like formation from the outside. You are developing something that most people will spend decades trying to find shortcuts to and never quite reach. Trust the process. Do the inner work. Ask the hard questions and sit with the uncomfortable answers. Stop abandoning yourself just to be accepted by people who only wanted a smaller version of you. Because the version of yourself that you have been shrinking to fit inside other people's comfort zones is not where your real power lives. Your real power is in everything you have been carrying quietly. The depth, the perception, the hard-earned clarity, the ability to care without losing yourself, the ability to see human nature without looking away. That is rare, and the world does not need you to become easier for everyone else to handle. It needs you to stop hiding what makes you strategically different. Robert Greene repeatedly reminds us that the greatest advantage is not found in pretending to be someone else, but in understanding yourself so completely that no one can manipulate your direction. When you stop apologizing for your depth, when you stop seeking permission to think differently, and when you stop sacrificing your own judgment for acceptance, you become extraordinarily difficult to control. That is the quiet form of power most people never discover because they spend their lives chasing approval instead of clarity. So stop hiding it. Stop shrinking your perception to make other people comfortable. Let your discernment become your strength. Let your self-respect shape your decisions, and let your understanding of human nature guide the way you move through the world. The people who matter will recognize it. The people who depend on your uncertainty will not like it. And that is exactly how you will know you are finally walking your own path, instead of living according to someone else's expectations.